San Francisco was a city that moved like a rumor, always on the edge of something spectacular or something catastrophic. It gleamed with ambition, wore fog like perfume, and didn't care whether you were ready or not. Selena Adeyemi had come to the city to build an empire, not fall in love. But the city had a funny way of mixing the two. She was 28 and already the founder of Nuvient, a biometric encryption startup that had exploded in the tech world. She was the kind of woman who walked into boardrooms where everyone looked surprised and left those same rooms with contracts worth more than their entire quarterly revenue. She didn't have time for dinner dates, didn't believe in distractions, and certainly didn't believe in letting anyone too close. Miles Davenport slipped through her defenses like a code she hadn't anticipated. She met him at a summit downtown. He was moderating a panel, all sharp suits and smoother words. He introduced her to the audience as a genius hiding in plain sight, and she rolled her eyes at the flattery. But later, when he caught her outside the event, laughing about her refusal to use a dishwasher because algorithms shouldn't clean plates, something about him felt unexpectedly real. The first time he asked her out, she said no. The second time, she pretended she didn't hear him. The third time, he found her walking by the Embarcadero with headphones in and bribed her with a coffee and a pun about ransomware and romance. Against all logic, she said yes. It didn't take long after that. They fell for each other the way San Francisco falls into fog, suddenly and all at once. He made her feel seen in a way that had nothing to do with profit margins or IPO rumors. He kissed her forehead when she was stressed, brought her tacos after late-night coding sprints, and said things like, "I don't need you to be perfect, I just need you to come home." They moved into a condo in Pacific Heights. She started to believe in forever. But forever started cracking around the edges almost immediately. His mother, Eleanor Davenport, made it no secret that she didn't approve. She called Selena ambitious like it was a slur, always complimented her dress instead of her ideas, and asked suspiciously often if Nuvient was still doing that tech thing. His brother Preston was worse, snide jokes, passive-aggressive smiles, and one memorable dinner where he asked if Selena had slept her way through Stanford. At first, Miles defended her, said his family was just adjusting. But as Nuvient's value grew, as headlines called her the future of cybersecurity, something in him shifted. He went from proud to possessive, from supportive to strategic. He started showing up to her meetings uninvited, casually dropping lines like, "We've been thinking about a rebrand," as if he'd built anything. One night, she passed his office door, half closed, light spilling out like a secret, and heard him on the phone. "If she screws up this Pentagon deal," he said, voice low and sharp, "I'm out. I didn't marry a liability." She stood in the hallway for a full minute before she could breathe again. That night, she stared at the ceiling while he slept beside her and wondered when the man she loved had become a stranger wearing his voice. The next day, she made a decision. She leaked false information, just a whisper to the right source. That Nuvient's $500 million federal contract had fallen through. That the company was in trouble. Within 24 hours, the media had the story. The stock wobbled. The vultures circled. And she watched. When she told Miles, she kept her voice steady. "The deal's gone," she said, eyes dry, heart hammering. He blinked, took a slow sip of his drink, then said, "Well, I guess that's that." She didn't flinch. "No offense, Sel," he added, already looking at his phone, "but we both knew you were punching above your weight. You had a good run." The words didn't cut like they should have. She felt more numb than hurt. The next morning, he was gone. His mother and brother showed up to help him move. Eleanor barely looked at her as she said, "You had potential, dear. But potential doesn't keep a man." They left her standing in the doorway with silence in her ears and something stronger than grief blooming in her chest. 2 weeks later, the Real story broke. Nuvient had never lost the contract. The deal had gone through in secret. The whole thing had been a test. He failed. She could have gone public, could have told the world what he did. But Selena had already learned that the best revenge isn't exposure, it's excellence. She poured herself into her company, ignored every text he sent, every weak apology, every "I didn't know." The public crowned her a genius for surviving what they thought was a collapse. She let them. Then came the nausea, the missed period, the test. She was pregnant. She sat in her kitchen that night, the city lights flickering across her marble counters, and felt the weight of everything she had built and everything she was about to become. Alone but not broken. She moved out of Pacific Heights and bought a quiet place in Marin, with trees that whispered and mornings that didn't hurt to wake up to. She hired a doula, surrounded herself with softness. She kept building Nuvient, but started something new too, an incubator for mothers in tech. She called it Mother Code. It was everything the world told her couldn't coexist: brilliance, ambition, and motherhood. At 7 months pregnant, she stood on a TED stage in a white silk dress, belly round and proud. "When the world thought I failed," she said, "they waited for me to disappear. But I wasn't lost. I was just rewriting the story." The audience rose to their feet. But she wasn't performing for them. Not anymore. He showed up 3 weeks before her due date. Unshaven, thinner, eyes ringed with regret. She opened the door, but only halfway. "I saw the talk," he said. "Selena, I didn't know. Because you didn't care to ask. I made a mistake." "No, Miles. You made a choice." He stepped closer. "I still love you." She laughed once, softly. "You loved what I gave you. The spotlight. The access. You didn't love me when it counted. Let me make it right. You walked away the second I looked weak. And this child, she's going to grow up knowing her mother stood tall. Without you." She closed the door gently and never looked back. Her daughter, Nova, was born under a quiet sky with lungs like a storm. She had her mother's eyes and her own kind of power. Selena held her close and whispered, "You will never have to prove your worth to anyone. Ever." And in the city that gave her everything and tried to take it all away, Selena walked again. Not to chase love, but to teach her daughter how to hold it without shrinking. Because some storms don't destroy you. They crown you.